obviously, for those that have been following the story around FaZe has been in free fall for, some time. I have made the point of covering everything that has gone on with FaZe because I think they're a fascinating esports organization to sort of look at from the outside. And why is that? Well, because they have been embroiled in pretty much everything bad and foul an esports org can do, particularly in recent years. And yet they still get sponsors. They've still had incredible mainstream sponsorship deals. They're still lauded by people in esports, As I've said many times, when they're on the cover of Sports Illustrated, not using any of their active esports champions to promote that, everyone in esports says, "Oh my God, FaZe are doing it for everyone. FaZe are really pushing the industry forward." Unfortunately, FaZe is actually it's everything wrong with esports. An organization that managed to grow from being something organic into being populated by, pretty terrible, shitty role models, people that were flaunting wealth that they may or may not have had. Then they segue into the skins gambling era so they can fund entry into CSGO, totally cover up the CSGO Wild thing, which everyone's just forgotten about, I guess, and no one really seems to care. Then they were involved with that fucking Hubrick guy, which was, a social media platform. FaZe thought they were going to get in on the ground floor on a social media platform. And basically, hey, why not have our own Twitter, essentially, our own Instagram or whatever, for all our users? And then it turned out that dude was lying about the numbers, and there was a whole bunch of lawsuits about that. Then you've got crypto rug pulls, pump and dumps, the Save the Children charity crypto token, all of which people have just sort of tolerated. You've had just disaster after disaster. The High Sky fucking fiasco where they lied about influencer Fortnite player being 13, where he should have been banned from all of the platforms and they should have been banned from all of the platforms. You had the Tfue lawsuit, right? Obviously everyone's forgotten about that because they settled. So it's been utter nonsense from start to finish, and this Lee Trink character has obviously presided over a lot of that. So it's definitely worth talking a little bit about what it sort of means now that he's gone, and specifically, it is a matter of public record that he has been fired, which is interesting because obviously they're a publicly traded company now, and so they had to put the forms in that the board had essentially voted him out. So let's. I'll go to the esports advocate for this because obviously I like the Fudge man, James Fudge, who covered this, and you can see there's a nice little picture. That's Lee Trink's LinkedIn picture there, in case you want to know how delusional this cat actually is. So anyway, here it is. FaZe Holdings announced on Monday that its CEO, Lee Trink, has been terminated and is required to resign as a member of FaZe's board of directors under the company's corporate governance rules. Trink is replaced effective immediately by the Chief Operating Officer and Chief Financial Officer, Christopher Patchier. Oh, is that Patchler? Oh, yeah, Patchler. Patchler will continue in his current roles in addition to his duties as interim CEO. So before we even start talking about Trink's complicated legacy at FaZe, just understand how dysfunctional FaZe is right now. And on the previous stream, which will be up on YouTube shortly, once I get out of the fucking, demonetization hell, they've had an exodus of executives. They've all been leaving. Nobody wants to be at FaZe. Everyone's failing upwards into other companies. It's just been nonsense. And so we now have FaZe as an entity where the COO, the CFO, and the CEO are all the same person. Now, I can't. There'll be people in the chat who immediately know why that's a terrible sign. But just to sort of explain it, first of all, it shows on a very surface level there's no work being done on this org anymore. Like, they've totally given up. It's over. The CFO, the COO, and the CEO should all be doing separate things and doing separate things well, right? This guy is someone that has to do all the things in a failing organization. There's also some potential board ramifications because each of these positions obviously has board influence. So one person now has this disproportionate amount of influence in the company's direction. That's obviously not an issue because everybody is looking to get the fuck out of FaZe. And I want to draw everyone's attention back to like March, where we were talking about the flop of the business and all the stuff with the stock exchange and the stock price beginning to tank. Back then, it was still double or triple what it is now. And remember that they said, unless something changes, we don't think we have enough money to exist past November of 2023. Well, now it's September. So we're right on the precipice of potentially seeing the death of FaZe, I think. Or certainly FaZe being transferred into, different hands and running in a different way. It just looks to be, all the signs point to that inevitability, especially if you're just going to appoint one dude to essentially do all of the executive positions. So that's that. But anyway, it continues. The 8K form that they filed for the firing of Lee Trink said on September 9th, 2023, the board of directors of FaZe Holdings Incorporated took action to terminate Lee Trink from his position as chief executive officer of the company, effective immediately. In accordance with the company's corporate governance guidelines, as a result of this termination, Mr. Trink is required to submit his resignation as a member of the board. It's unclear specifically why the board decided to terminate Trink's employment or what compensation the company will have to pay him despite being terminated. Well, we could do the first one. I mean, Lee Trink, I think he joined, there you go, CEO, he joined in September 2018. And I was like, well, if I wanted to get like a definitive history of everything that's wrong with FaZe, all I would have to do was go to my own YouTube channel, type in the search bar FaZe, and I would be able to sort of see all of the things that they've been embroiled in. And the problem just has been that this organization has been, well, first of all, massively overspending and running on fumes for a long time. But second of all, and most crucially, under this man's guidance, it has got further and further and further away from what FaZe is meant to be. What was the appeal of FaZe? FaZe was a bunch of fuckboys making money by playing, Call of Duty and making content and challenging each other and messing around and making gaming look fun and creating an aspirational element because they also happen to be wealthy. So that is what people are into FaZe for. And increasingly under this guy, this guy's kind of guidance, and it's really strange. There's been this like boomer bullshit where basically he's like going after things that it just isn't down with the kids. This is the guy who comes up with the idea of let's get Snoop Dogg involved. That would have been rad in the early noughties. It's not rad in 2022, 2023. It's not rad at all. It's very fucking far from rad. Zoomers aren't excited about Snoop Dogg. This is also undoubtedly the guy that drove some of the influences they were bringing in, like the Stranger Things actress that they had. And keep in mind, she wasn't one of the mainstays of the show. She was someone that came in season 4. And I don't, spoiler, I've stopped watching Stranger Things because it's garbage. Outside of the initial season and the little teaser premise, it's one of those shows where they just sort of rolled the dice, it got popular, and they're even retconning it in real time before your eyes. So, they're going back and editing seasons so it makes coherent sense, which not even the writers of Lost had the fucking balls to do. But whatever, anyway. So, things like that just aren't what people follow FaZe for. And as a result, FaZe has essentially become this kind of vehicle for boomer LARPing about esports. And Lee Trink is key to that. This is a guy, remember, when they announced the new board, which had like Stephanie McMahon on it and Snoop Dogg and all this other shit, he put himself on that thing as being a founder of FaZe, which is in no way true. He was the CEO and co-founder of FaZe, and you have nothing to do with the founding of FaZe. But there is one thing that people in esports, all the Johnny-come-latelys, love to do, and that is they want to synthesize authenticity and synthesize credibility by pretending they've been in this business for years, even when it was unfashionable and there was no money there. So like, this is one of the reasons why I've said gatekeeping really needs to be a priority, actually, in getting esports back to normal, if it can be saved. Now, obviously, I have no interest in that. I don't care. I would more than happy. I would stand up in hand on heart in like Congress today and say esports is bad. It harms young people. It should be stamped out. I would happily say that. Destroy it all for me. But if you're interested in saving it, and some people are, then the first priority should be gatekeeping, because, you see it with the LinkedIn grifters, and they all say the same thing. I got my first computer when I was like 8 years old, and then I quickly gravitated towards esports. And you're like, none of that's true. Like, playing your fucking Nintendo at Christmas isn't the same as being in hardcore competitions and that kind of thing. But that's what they do. They all want to synthesize the credibility and pretend they were there from the start, because it makes it look like they know what they're doing. It makes them look like they're authentic. And it also means that when they're talking to all these investment people, they can say, oh, I was there back in the dark old days, but I'm telling you, as someone who's been in it for 20 years, I can tell you now's the time. And they go, oh, well, he has been in it for 20 years. I guess he knows what he's talking about. But he doesn't know what he's talking about. And Lee Trink took this brand that was super popular and just made questionable decision over questionable decision, and really fucked up in like just little things. Like, why are you embroiled in a fucking lawsuit with Tfue? Why not just make a deal happen? Why not just like, or even better, why not just realize you're gonna lose that one in the battle of public opinion and just let the guy go? We all know the contract was fucking derisory. It doesn't even matter if it's legitimate in a way. But no, this guy wanted to fight it. He even put himself in the video, remember? Because it was like, there was this weird back and forth where Banks was like saying publicly, you can go watch my videos on it, Banks was saying, oh, I've been personally hurt. The old FaZe is like a family routine. And Lee Trink put himself in and basically tried to like undermine the court case before it even happened, and did the embarrassing fucking FaZe the fuck up line in it, which is just why I started calling him, the walking embodiment of a midlife crisis. So the first question is very easy to answer. Lee Trink's CEO guidance of this company has brought them to absolute ruin, and FaZe has been around for a long, long time and might not be. And listen, I don't give a fuck about that, but there are lots of people who do. And that sucks. So obviously this guy's got to get fired. I'm amazed he held on to his job for as long as he did. I think his entire tenure's been an embarrassment to witness, even as someone who isn't invested in FaZe at all. Then next, what compensation will the company have to pay him despite being terminated? Obviously, I'm sure you all know. There's always these super wealthy, parachute payments, golden handshakes, all of these deals. There'll be something in there. He will be getting a handoff, and as we'll get to, he's also got 5 million of the shares of this penny stock that FaZe has become, which I imagine at some point he'll be able to cash in, and he might still even have voting rights depending on the type of shares. So, I mean, he has tanked an esports org. I'm not saying single-handedly, but a huge part of it. It's no coincidence that he's a 55-year-old man, and the directions they went in regards to like music influencers they wanted to work with, and the types of entertainment that they influencers they wanted to work with all align with a 55-year-old man's interests, and he also used to work in the music industry. You know, these things aren't a coincidence. So anyway, Trink got involved with FaZe Clan in March 2016 as an advisor and took on the role of CEO in September 2018. While the company's had a number of challenges and controversies under Trink's watch, he also helped the organization raise tens of millions in capital and become one of the first major esports orgs in North America to become publicly traded on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange. Trink's termination follows the resignation of another leadership figure in FaZe Clan. According to forms filed with the SEC, FaZe announced the departure of Daniel Schreibman as chairman of the board. We covered that in the last video. Schreibman was announced as a part of a post-merger board of directors on March 22nd, 2022, prior to the social purpose acquisition company merger with B. Riley. Schreibman currently serves as the chief investment officer of B. Riley Financial and the president of B. Riley Principal Investments. Riley is currently the largest shareholder in FaZe Holdings. So you've got this go. So basically now what you've got is you've got a husk of a company. I would fully expect that this is going to now start to kick on. The more and more executives that are hands-on with the project that leave, the more and more it's going to become about dollars and cents. And to save that, it's going to start impacting on the esports teams they run. I think ultimately you'll probably see the CSGO team go at some point. I think before CS2, maybe they keep them around for the first CS2 major, but I think that's been on the cards for a while personally, and I think as well. I mean, you know, what's going on with Valorant and stuff like that. I just think FaZe, the only thing good they've really done in esports lately is lease their brand to the Atlanta esports group and have Atlanta FaZe in the CDL and doing well. Yeah, Rocket League looks to be on the way out as well. There's just not an esport you can get a financial return on, and we all know influencers do better in terms of actual influence than esports teams do. So I would be very surprised if their esports operations weren't cut right back. Remember, TSM are talking about doing that as well, and that's going to be the focus. To pick up on Kevin Hitt's question, that's the journalist Kevin Hitt. What do I think they should do? I mean, personally, I think this brand is busted. I think it still has some value, but more principally as a sort of influencer hub, I would cut all the esports teams to save money. I would fire 90% of the executives. I would bring back the old guard as of the Bankses and the Reigns and anyone else who thinks that they should have been in it. I would make a ton of content around that and say it's the second coming, the rebirth of FaZe. I would put them in a content house and I would let those 30, 40-year-old frat boys fucking just make videos. And there you go. That's it. I mean, that's got to be the direction they head in. I would be very surprised if they didn't. That's what's going to make you money. That's what's going to get you sponsors. And that's what's really cost effective. And that was a model that worked. You didn't have to like it. You didn't have to think it was good, but it appreciably worked. It's basically what you need to decide if you're an esports org is, do you want to be like a content hub and think of yourselves a media company, or do you want to be the Dallas Cowboys? You can't do both because it's too resource intensive. You can make content around the Dallas Cowboys, sure. You can have a documentary team embedded and do content around that. You better hope people care. You better hope you are the Dallas Cowboys and people are invested in your shit. But in general, you're not the Dallas Cowboys. In general, you're not even the fucking Jets. You're not the Browns. You know what I mean? Like, you're just a small fucking esports org with big dreams who maybe occasionally stumbles across a talented lineup or player every now and then. And not enough people care about that. So, you know, the problem is there are teams people will get invested in, your TSMs, your Optics, your 100 Thieves, your G2s, and then there are teams no one really gives a fuck about. And so if you want to be a content hub, but you want to put the teams first and foremost, hate to break it to you, but no one's going to watch that content and you won't make money on it. So for me, if you stick a bunch of drunken lunatics in a frat house, in a mansion in Beverly Hills, and you just let them live this opulent lifestyle and occasionally play video games, you know, and then you start reaching out to sponsors saying, look, our videos get millions of views, and these people are shills and they will say anything for money, you're set to make a return on that model. You're not, but as I said, if you can't win a Super Bowl, if you can't capture the hearts and minds of esports fans, which I'm increasingly learning don't have hearts or minds, then you're better off being an influencer house for sure. Anyway, it doesn't end there with the Lee Trink kind of send-off. I was typing up my own little write-up about it, similar to what I did when Nicole went from EG. I was kind of like, oh, I'll just type up my thoughts on this and kind of have a little bit of fun and make sure we do the Trumpian thing of cementing the name, you know, midlife crisis, man. And I tweeted about it. I did a Jake Lucky style tweet, you know, 2 screenshots, and this thing that's already been reported happened. I'm saying it's happened now. Please retweet and give me some Twitter money. So I did that, and let me show you the reaction first of all. It got posted on HLTV. It's always going to be good when that happens. FaZe CEO fired. Good fucking riddance, lulz. Rest in rip. What does this change? Besides CEO. Then somebody points out he's one of the main reasons for the financial woes. What about the other reasons? Well, all right, that's not what you asked. Great stuff. They're going to sell Brokey to make back some funds and buy Dexter. That's not going to dig them out of the financial hole they're in. They're literally on the brink of bankruptcy. I don't think Brokey's going to help them. Somebody did say FaZe the fuck up, so this person is aware of the memes. Severance check. He'll be partying harder than all of us have ever had combined. I mean, listen, here's the reality there. Actually, Lee Trink is the cat, by all accounts, behind the scenes. He loved being in FaZe. It really meant something to him. It was like, you know, he thought it was the coolest thing ever. Because he used to be in the music biz. He was a manager at a record label. But before that, he was like assistant district attorney or something. He went to law school in Brooklyn, I think. So this was like the coolest thing he'd ever done in his life, I think. And so he really liked it. And we're going to get to just how funny that sort of is with another article in a second. But anyway, on it goes. A good change. I said, this is from my tweet. Rest in peace, midlife crisis, man. And never forget to FaZe the fuck up. And then it says, RL occasionally does some good journalism, but he will never not be cringeworthy. And then someone said, he's a Redditor and a journalist. Quite an unfortunate combo. I'm literally not a Redditor. I'm banned from Reddit. Reddit have cast me out. Reddit have said I can never have a Reddit account ever again because I criticised Reddit and its moderation and one of its more popular moderation teams. So, and I've been, obviously, that's been the case since 2015, 2014, something like that. So nearly 10 years. So I don't know. Everybody knows I'm a Redditor, I guess. Definitely a shit poster on Twitter. But this person obviously doesn't understand. Right, first of all, midlife crisis, man. He's a 55-year-old man LARPing like he was a fucking gamer. Right, a 55-year-old cop, essentially, like you know, fucking district attorney, a law student, part of the apparatus of the establishment, now LARPing as if he's like, you know, some fucking cool kid at 55. Saying FaZe the fuck up in his videos. That's why I call him midlife crisis, man. Not because it's not. You shouldn't find that cringeworthy. You should find him cringeworthy, you know. But anyway, someone sell Brokey again. I just don't think they understand this. Richard Lewis, the activist investor. I don't know what that is. Any ideas on that one? Cross this one off your bingo cards. Richard Lewis blocked me. And I've never posted a single thing commented on Twitter. I just follow people. He blocked me, right? So we got that in there. Will change nothing. So, nice little interlude there with HLTV. But then today, over at Bloomberg, Cecilia published an article. That's Cecilia D'Anastasio, who you know, nominated for Esports Journalist of the Year last year, I believe. So, from $1 billion to almost worthless, which is, true. FaZe Clan runs out of hype. The board fired CEO Lee Trink following a steep decline in their shares. And here it is. So, I want to get to... Right, here we go. 3 months after its July 2022 debut on the NASDAQ, FaZe Holdings Incorporated threw an exclusive party at a San Diego nightclub, hiring the rapper Travis Scott to promote its stable of video game stars and YouTube personalities. Now, just don't be under any illusion about what a lot of these people are doing in esports, because this is another thing that is just so typical of the esports space. You will never be they will never be wealthy enough. You will never be wealthy enough. They will never be wealthy enough to own an actual sports team or to own an actual media company. So what they do is they fucking get, they come into esports, they get some investment money, which is a pittance in the world of entertainment and sports, but huge for us, like 20 million. Oh my God, that's amazing. 20 million is a drop in a bucket in a sports team, in a media company, whatever it is. And then they hold these stupid, needlessly expensive junkets to show how fucking cool and successful they are. And they hire people. I think we did this at WSO. No, it wasn't us, actually. Who the fuck was it now? I was at a Fortnite event and the fucking game was there. The game. The fucking game. Like, why? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, you just see shit like that all the fucking time in esports. It's just so ridiculous. Yeah, people are like, who? Yeah, who? He's like, who? The game. Trying to get into a beef with Eminem now in 2023, like, try and resurrect his fucking dead career. Anyway, so people just do this all the time, and it's pathetic, and it's a waste of money. Critically, you get nothing out of this except this is essentially to, well, first of all, fulfill their own sad little tawdry fantasies, but it's also to get him good with the press. You invite all the journalists. Oh, hey, wanna come to this junket? Free drinks all night. You can meet Travis Scott. You can meet the game. I'm all right, actually, mate. It's all the same with you. Anyway, social media influencers mingled with gamers in expensive streetwear. Many looked bored as they filmed the event for their online channels. Well past midnight, Scott appeared for a 15-minute show, his voice barely audible over the thumping bass. The party, which cost $1.7 million, got the company and a sponsor's name in hundreds of Google search results, YouTube videos and Instagram stories. Lee Trink, FaZe's chief executive officer at the time, hailed the event as a great success. We achieved all of the things we would have hoped for, including making money, he said in an interview after the party. But with losses mounting and the shares tumbling, the company fired Trink 55. That's such a burn. It's such a burn when you add his age after saying he got fired. No one should be getting fired at 55. Anyway, the company fired Trink 55 on September 9th. Replacing him on an interim basis with Chief Financial Officer Christopher Packler. Interviews with 7 former employees describe a mismanaged organization marked by poor spending decisions, you do surprise me, excessive pay, and expansion into unprofitable categories like esports. The company, which employed 112 people at year-end, has been enmeshed in controversies involving its online personalities and announced 2 rounds of layoffs this year. And there you can see, this is the line go down. Remember the good old days? Remember when it was like over $20 a share? Remember that? And then, you got a little spike again because you did the McDonald's deal. And then this. The absolute crash. Los Angeles-based FaZe reported a $48.7 million loss from operations last year, after initially projecting that it would debut on the stock market with a $1 billion valuation. Its shares have tumbled to 18 cents. God, is it 18 now? 18 as of today. From over $20, reflecting skepticism that the social media activities of young, largely male gamers could ever be a sustainable business, even if they have millions of fans. Last month in New York, followers of one influencer, not a FaZe Clan member, set off a riot in Union Square over a giveaway of game consoles. Yeah, you remember that? We all know who did that one, don't we? That was a classic. Management, meanwhile, is evaluating its options, including a possible sale of the company. Trink said before he left, FaZe is definitely going to weather it, he said in a June interview. FaZe is no stranger to controversy. It's part of why we're so compelling. And then Trink couldn't be reached for comment after his dismissal. And there's a picture of him at FaZe headquarters. The so-called creator economy was in its infancy in 2014, when the energy drink G Fuel helped procure FaZe's first content house in Plainview, New York. G Fuel paid the FaZe team $1,500 a month to feature its beverage in videos and covered the $6,000 rent on the property, where the players actually lived and uploaded their clips. G Fuel Chief Executive Officer Clifford Morgan came by every now and then, tidying up the place and taking out the empty pizza boxes. 2 years later, FaZe moved to LA, where YouTubers were flocking for a whiff of Hollywood glamour. The members posted videos about vaping conventions, 27 million views, getting tattoos, 9 million views, and pretending to get a woman pregnant, 6.7 million views, in addition to occasionally playing Call of Duty. In 2017, we all remember that. Don't tell me you don't remember it. In 2017, the company brought on Greg Selko as president, the founder of online clothing retailer Karmaloop. Selko viewed FaZe as a new iteration of youth culture, just like skateboarding and hip-hop. FaZe had almost no revenue when he joined, Selko said in an interview, and the company confirmed that. Trink then joined FaZe as CEO the next year. A former child actor... for fuck's sake. A former child actor and Brooklyn prosecutor, he had been advising the company since 2016 and had also done stints as an executive with Virgin Records and EMI Capital Music. Trink loved the stage, but had no experience in gaming, esports, or the creator economy. Over time, the two developed a more centralized organization that generated revenue in several ways. FaZe sold sponsorships to brands whose products were featured in videos made by the FaZe personalities. The company also earned money from ads that ran alongside the YouTube videos. FaZe then dove into another more tumultuous wave, esports. The esports industry has experienced a broad decline since 2018. However, investors and sponsors have soured on the idea that competitive gaming could rival traditional sports. Most of the FaZe teams have been unprofitable, according to a video posted earlier this year by Northern FaZe Rain Shat, a company co-founder. FaZe doesn't break out specific esports expenses, but said its revenue in that business has continued to climb and that its esports presence helps sell broader sponsorship packages. Management disputes arose. Selko and other FaZe executives left in 2020 to found Exa, an esports company based in Boston. "We didn't leave on good terms," Selko said, adding he wasn't a huge fan of Trink's management style. Selko took issue with FaZe's almost all-male roster of gamers and has made diversity a core part of his new company's image. I'm sure he really cares about it, and it's not just a grift. FaZe paid Selko $3.2 million to settle a lawsuit over his departure, according to a public filing. That's super interesting because the whole Xset FaZe lawsuit, it just didn't get mentioned at all. Like, I don't remember people sort of talking about it and saying, like, oh, this is a big deal, this is the thing that's going on in the background. I don't recall people saying it at all. It was just something that you sort of knew was going on. But again, more wasted money. $3.2 million to settle a lawsuit with a former executive at your company. Then, this is the quote of the article for me. As sales grew, because it talks about the other sponsorship deals they brought in. FaZe rented a series of luxury properties that served as homes and filming locations for its media stars. The costs, including rent, utilities, and security, ran to as much as $60,000 a month. Among the properties was a lakefront mansion in suburban Los Angeles, now estimated to be worth $12 million, that FaZe members said was previously a home to singer Justin Bieber. Trink took FaZe's influences to fancy Los Angeles steakhouses and wore a diamond-encrusted necklace featuring FaZe's F logo. "We weren't throwing money in the garbage," Trink said. "We were creating a mythology." It's actually ridiculous. A fucking mythology. You just spunked all that money away on fuck all. Like, oh, mate. Trink earned $731,000 in salary and bonuses in 2022, which was down from $1.38 million the year before. With his own money, FaZe's CEO rented a Malibu beach house where he sometimes held meetings. His rock star persona extended to the office, where he worked on an elevated platform in the center of a former Hollywood warehouse. He thinks he's the Wolf of Wall Street. What a fucking loser. Oh, it's too good. Oh, it's so good to know I was right. Like, see, I'm never off with people, dudes. Like, you gotta understand. When I get a read on you, it's right. Holy fucking shit. Oh my god. The executive brought his pit bull to work, where it bit at least one staffer. Trink acknowledged this. I've worked in this industry for 2 decades. It's just so fucking stupid, all of it. It's just stupid. FaZe's overall lease expenses jumped 71% to $1.54 million in 2022, according to company filings. That's Bidenomics. FaZe's early financing included $40 million from rapper Pitbull. Maybe it was Pitbull that came in and bit a staffer, you never know. Actor Chris O'Donnell, and a roster of media and sports personalities who will never be coming back to esports ever again, according to an April 2020 press release. Then Trink made a decision that 4 former employees said contributed enormously to the company's current financial woes. He borrowed more money. By the end of 2021, debt had more than doubled to $70.8 million, including a $55 million convertible note paying 10% a year and maturing at the end of 2023. Trink began speaking internally about taking FaZe public in 2021. Remember when I said when these orgs go public, it's not because they think like, oh, it's a good time to float, we can build a company, we can, we can create shows. It's just a cash grab. It's just a cash grab every single time. It continues. While that was going on, FaZe was weathering its biggest controversy yet. Members had previously been embroiled in public flare-ups. One of its Fortnite players was suspended for using a racial slur during a live stream. He later apologized. FaZe's Call of Duty team also had to apologize for a sexist joke about women esports pros. FaZe member Richard Bankston, around the Banks in the chat, was criticized online for promoting an offshore gambling site not legal in the US. Bengston, who told a podcaster that his involvement was 100% legit because he played in Mexico, didn't respond to requests for comment. Oh, Banks, will you ever change? Will you ever change, Banks? No, he won't ever change. But fallout from those episodes paled in comparison with the turmoil that followed FaZe's involvement with an English YouTuber named Sam Pepper, who had become famous on the reality television show Big Brother in 2014. The BBC reported that 6 women had accused Pepper of harassment. One of them was identified by name. In an email response to questions from Bloomberg, Pepper said none of the allegations were true, no legal actions, no arrests, no court cases, he said. In 2021, though, Pepper began working as an independent contractor at FaZe, consulting on YouTube channel strategy with some of the founders, according to the company. At one point, Pepper was on the phone with Apple trying to broker brand deals, according to 2 former employees. Pepper declined to comment on his role, citing an agreement not to discuss it. Pepper helped FaZe members promote a cryptocurrency token called Save the Kids, ostensibly for charity. The coin's value crashed, however. A YouTube sleuth, that's CoffeeZilla, later revealed that the influencers had sold their holdings for thousands of dollars in profit before the collapse. FaZe ended its relationship with one influencer and suspended 3 others, saying in a statement at the time that it had no connection to the promotion. Remember that? Their influencers, under the guise of being FaZe influencers, just promoted that. And they said, yeah, we really had nothing to do with it. And everyone else went, yeah, fine. Anyway, Pepper, who was no longer involved with FaZe, said he was paid by a FaZe member to help with his videos, and he was dragged into all the drama and later thrown under the bus. He added, many people came out and proved his statements about me being involved were not true. After the incident, I'll always love a sentence that starts with those words, FaZe had a harder time attracting sponsors. According to one person with knowledge of the company's sales who asked not to be identified discussing internal matters, FaZe confirmed it did have a harder time, but despite the controversy, it was able to sign deals with companies like Porsche and Nike, etc. We did a pretty thorough investigation, Trink said. It was a lesson that the talent cannot be totally unfettered. Yeah, who could have known? Anyway, it goes on to talk about the merger. We'll skip ahead and we'll go on July 20th of last year, because remember, it's about midlife crisis, man. Trink took the podium at the NASDAQ in New York to celebrate FaZe's debut. Can we get everybody up here? It's definitely not all about me, he said. Like, if you have to say that, it is, isn't it? But anyway, beckoning FaZe members onto the stage. Trink thanked the renegade teenagers who founded FaZe and the executives in LA and around the world who stood on the shoulders of these giants. As he rang the opening bell, red confetti poured down. The FaZe F lit up in Times Square. On YouTube, meanwhile, viewers bemoaned FaZe's change from its roots as a scrappy kids brand. Bro, to be honest, I don't give a fuck if FaZe is a public company, one fan said. I miss when it was 6 friends in an average New York house making funny pranks, skits, vlogs, and challenges every day. Yeah, who knew? Who could possibly know? That's what the kids want. Before his firing, Trink said FaZe was reinvigorating its roster of online stars and reducing expenses. In February, the company cut 20% of its staff, followed by a further 40% cut 2 months later. While FaZe hasn't shared news of any major new sponsors since deals with Porsche and Nike were announced in January, brands like McDonald's and General Mills remain. The business ebbs and flows, Trink said, citing the broader downturn in advertising. We're not there yet as an industry, but we're getting there. It's really weird, isn't it? How all of these CEOs, all of these people that come into esports, when they're getting the positive press and they appear to be on top, they all say, oh, esports is huge. Esports is the big thing. Esports is the biggest thing imaginable. That's why we're here. And then they hit a little bump. Whenever there's a bump in the road, they turn around and go, it's the industry what is to blame. We're just not there yet. And it's like, we're not there yet because dickheads like you keep coming in, lying, overvaluing things, overspending things on things, and you drive away investors, you tank brands, and you make esports look like a fucking joke. Like, it's mostly Americans, but it happens all over. But, you know, I think about, like, back in my day, to use the boomer qualifier, of what esports was like and how it worked and how you grew something in esports and where we thought it could go and what our aspirations were. It's nothing like what this new breed of owners and executives coming in actually want. We were under no illusions about how niche we were, and we knew we could grow to like 5,000 people in a stadium. Right, 5,000 people in a stadium watching a video game is fine. Money can be made from that, particularly if it's 5,000 genuine fans. But instead, we got that. We hit that goal, which was meant to be, I believe, the end destination for esports. And maybe you televise it. We don't need to be on telly. We've got streams, right? That should have been the end destination, but instead people got there and then went, this isn't enough. You know, I want a mansion in fucking Malibu. I want a team house for my, athletes. I want influencers to promote our brand. I want a clothing company. I want a line of hardware. It's like, I don't know, guys. Like, it just kept going and going and going and snowballing. And it's people like Lee Trink that have done that to the industry. So, definitely have to wonder. I'm hoping, actually, this is like a part of a trend, because a lot of grifters are losing their job right now, and no one's really talking about it in esports. Like, a lot of these esports grifters are losing their jobs, actually. It's not just like a couple of high-profile CEOs. There's a lot of executives as well, people who've been given bullshit titles at these tiny little companies, and, they're finally being the ones cut. Like, usually you get a 20%, of the staff cut, and it's like good people, boots on the ground, impressionable young adults that suffer, and not the executives that bring the orgs to ruin. But interestingly enough, yeah, for example, Nicole's not going to be the last name out at EG. I know that for sure. So that's interesting to me, that maybe finally we are going to be a bit more robust in, getting these people out, because they are doing more harm than good.